All right, let's get into a topic that's probably bugged you if you've spent any time with modern AI. We're diving into a really cool paper that gets to the bottom of one of the biggest puzzles out there. Why do these incredibly smart models sometimes make the most ridiculously dumb mistakes? The answer, as it turns out, is pretty amazing. So, we're living in this wild age of AI, right? These models can do just about anything, and they're getting better at a shocking pace. But there's this weird paradox, this strange inconsistency right at the heart of how they work. And this is the real head scratcher, isn't it? How can a system that's sophisticated enough to compose poetry or write clean code turn around and fail at a simple math problem that a $10 calculator could nail every single time? It just doesn't seem to make sense. It's this jarring contrast that has had researchers stumped for years. On one hand, you have this almost human-level ability to understand nuance and context, and on the other, you have these complete faceplants on simple, logical tasks. It's like meeting a brilliant astrophysicist who can't figure out how to open a jar of pickles. Okay, so enter our researchers Suvrat, Raju, and Praneeth Netrapalli. They looked at this whole mess and said, you know what? Maybe everyone is thinking about this the wrong way. They decided to come at it from a totally fresh angle. And here's their big insight, the crucial shift in their thinking. They decided to stop treating the AI like a piece of software that has a bug you need to fix. Instead, they started treating it like a complex natural system, something you'd study in physics or maybe even biology. To do this, they borrowed a really powerful tool from the world of physics called effective field theory. Now, it sounds complicated, I know, but the core idea is actually super intuitive. It says you don't need to understand every single microscopic detail of a complex system to predict its behavior. You just have to find the few key parameters, the effective ones that really matter. Think about it like a river. It's made of trillions and trillions of water molecules all bouncing around in crazy complex ways. But do you need to track every single molecule to know how the river will flow? Of course not. You just need to know its density and its viscosity. So the researchers thought, what if an AI, with its billions and billions of parameters, is the same? What if we can ignore all that microscopic complexity and find just a couple of key numbers that predict its errors? This brand new perspective led them to a really elegant idea that they called the noise accumulation theory. So here's the central idea right from the paper. They argue that these big, dumb mistakes aren't some single catastrophic failure. No, they're actually the result of tiny, almost unnoticeable errors in the AI's attention, its ability to focus on the right information, that just build up over time until they finally hit a tipping point. Okay. Let's walk through this, because it makes a lot of sense. Imagine the AI is working on a long, complicated problem. At every single step, every time it focuses on a new piece of information, a tiny bit of random noise, like static, gets introduced. Now, for a short task, it's no big deal. But for a longer task, these tiny errors start to add up, step by step. It's exactly like a small leak on a big ship. Eventually, that accumulated noise gets so big that it crosses a critical line, and that's when the AI makes a mistake. And what's really amazing is how simple their model is. The researchers found they could predict this entire process with just 2 parameters. First, there's R, which you can think of as the basic noise rate, how big that tiny error is at each step. And second, there's Q, which just represents all the different ways the AI could possibly mess up on a given task. That's it, just 2 numbers. So an elegant theory is one thing. But, the real question is, does it actually work? Well, the researchers put it to the test against some of the biggest AI models out there. And they didn't just dip their toes in the water. They went all in, running over 200,000 separate tests across 3 different state-of-the-art AI models. This wasn't some small experiment. This was a massive, rigorous validation. And they threw a whole bunch of different tasks at these models. Everything from simple stuff like reversing a list of numbers, all the way up to super complex, multi-step reasoning puzzles like the Tower of Hanoi. They really wanted to see if their 2-parameter formula could hold up across the board. And the results were just stunning. In nearly every single one of these different tasks, their simple 2-parameter formula predicted the actual real-world accuracy of the AIs with incredible precision. The theory just worked. But in science, it's often the exceptions, the times when things break, that are the most revealing. And what the researchers found in the one case where their model completely fell apart Well, that turned out to be the most important clue of all.
This is where the story gets really, really interesting, because the failure itself was actually the most insightful part of the entire experiment.
So on one specific task, just simple addition, the super powerful Gemini 2.5 Pro model just didn't behave as predicted. Its error rate wasn't that smooth, predictable curve their formula said it should be. Instead, it was just erratic, all over the place. The theory failed. Or did it? See, the researchers had a hunch. They thought, maybe the problem isn't our theory. Maybe the problem is the AI is being inconsistent. It might be switching between different internal strategies to solve the problem. So they ran a new test. This time, they forced the AI to use just one single, consistent algorithm for addition. And what happened? The erratic errors completely disappeared, and the AI's accuracy suddenly fit their prediction formula perfectly. The exception didn't just prove the rule, it revealed a deeper truth about how the AI was thinking. And this all leads to the most exciting part of this whole story. If you can actually understand the source of these mistakes, this accumulating noise, then you can start to do something about it. You can actually start to control it. To prove this point, they took on multiplication. On the left is just a normal, standard prompt. But on the right, they engineered a new prompt specifically designed to reduce that internal noise. It forces the model to follow a very structured method, which helps it focus its attention and not get lost along the way. And now just look at these results. With the standard prompt, the more powerful Gemini Pro model baits the weaker Gemini Flash model, right? That's what you'd expect. But with the new noise-reducing prompt, something amazing happens. The weaker model, Gemini Flash, suddenly becomes incredibly accurate. So accurate that it's now outperforming its much bigger, more powerful sibling. Let that sink in for a minute. By simply understanding and managing the AI's internal noise, they made a less powerful model more accurate than a state-of-the-art one. This completely changes how we might think about improving AI performance. It's not always about just getting a bigger model. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. As we go forward, building the next generation of AI, maybe the biggest leaps won't come from just more raw power. Maybe they'll come from a deeper, more scientific understanding of the very nature of AI's mistakes. What if the future of AI is less about brute force and more about taming the noise?